Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 27. Many have sinned to make a profit, and he who seeks riches will turn away his eyes, as a stake will be driven tightly between fitted stones, so sin will be wedged between selling and buying. If a man does not hold steadfastly to the fear of the Lord, his house will soon overturn. When a sieve is shaken, the refuse remains. So a man's filth remains in the way he reasons. As a furnace tests a potter's vessels, so the test of a man is in the way he reasons. As fruit reveals how a tree is cultivated, so a man's reasoning process reveals his heart. Do not praise a man before he reveals the way he reasons, for this is the way a man is tested. If you pursue righteousness, you will attain it, and put it on like a glorious robe. As birds flock with their own kind, so also truth will return to those who practice it. As a lion lies in wait for his prey, so sin lies in wait for those who do wrong. The talk of a godly man is always wise, but a fool changes like the moon. Among senseless men, limit your time. Instead, spend it with men of understanding. The talk of fools is offensive, and they laugh at the lewdness of sin. Speech filled with swearing will make one's hair stand on end, and quarreling will make one stop his ears. The quarreling of the arrogant leads to bloodshed, and their abusive language is hard on the ears. He who reveals secrets destroys his credibility, and he will not find a friend for life. Love your friend and be trustworthy with him, but if you reveal his secrets, do not pursue him closely. For as surely as a man has destroyed his enemy, so you have destroyed the friendship of your neighbor. As you might release a bird from your hand, so you have let your neighbor go. And you will not catch him. Do not pursue him, for he has withdrawn far away, and has escaped like a deer from a snare. For a wound can be bandaged and an insult forgiven, but anyone who reveals secrets is without hope. He who winks with his eye plots evil deeds, and no one can draw him away from them. His speech will be sweet in your presence, and he will marvel at your words. But later his speech will distort what you said, and he will cause trouble with your words. I hate many things, but none in comparison to him, and the Lord will hate him. He who throws a stone into the air throws it on its head, and a treacherous blow will distribute wounds. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who sets a snare will be caught in it. He who does evil things will have it roll back on him, and he will not know what hit him. Mockery and abuse come back on an arrogant man, and vengeance lies in wait for him like a lion. Those who rejoice at the fall of the godly will be caught in a trap, and the pain will consume them before their death. Anger and wrath, these are also abominations, and a sinful man shall possess both. Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 28. He who seeks revenge will find it from the Lord, and he will surely punish his sins. Forgive a wrong done you by your neighbor, then your sins will be pardoned when you pray. Can a man preserve wrath against his neighbor and still seek healing from the Lord? Can he show no mercy toward a man like himself and still beg God for mercy for himself? If he, being flesh, keeps his anger continually, who will atone for his sins? Remember the end of your life and cease from enmity. Remember destruction and death, and stand fast in the commandments. Remember the commandments, and do not vent your wrath against your neighbor. Remember the covenant of the Most High, and overlook faults. Refrain from quarreling, and you will decrease your sins, for a man who is hot-tempered will kindle quarreling. A sinful man will trouble his friends, and among those who live in peace he will inject unfriendliness. The heat of a fire will be kindled according to the amount of wood. So also the heat of a fire will be kindled according to the obstinacy of quarreling. Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 28. He who seeks revenge will find it from the Lord, and he will surely punish his sins. Forgive a wrong done you by your neighbor, then your sins will be pardoned when you pray. Can a man preserve wrath against his neighbor and still seek healing from the Lord? Can he show no mercy toward a man like himself and still beg God for mercy for himself? If he, being flesh, keeps his anger continually, who will atone for his sins? Remember the end of your life, and cease from enmity. Remember destruction and death, and stand fast in the commandments. Remember the commandments, and do not vent your wrath against your neighbor. Remember the covenant of the Most High, and overlook faults. Refrain from quarreling, and you will decrease your sins. For a man who is hot-tempered will kindle quarreling. A sinful man will trouble his friends, and among those who live in peace he will inject unfriendliness. The heat of a fire will be kindled according to the amount of wood. So also the heat of a fire will be kindled according to the obstinacy of quarreling. According to the strength of a man, so his anger shall be, and according to his wealth he will increase his wrath. A hasty quarrel kindles a fire, and a vigorous quarrel sheds blood. If you blow on a spark, it will kindle a fire, but if you spit on it, it will be quenched. Yet both come out of your mouth. Curse a slanderous and deceitful man, for he has destroyed many who were at peace. Slander has unsettled many, and scattered them from nation to nation, and it has destroyed strong cities, and overturned the houses of great men. Slander has driven away courageous women, and robbed them of their labors. He who devotes himself to slander will not find rest, nor shall he dwell in quietness. The blow from a whip causes a wound, but a blow from the tongue breaks bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as those who have fallen because of the tongue. Blessed is the man who is sheltered from it, who has not passed through the anger of the tongue, who does not drag its yoke, and is not bound by its chains. For its yoke is a yoke of iron, and its chains are chains of bronze. Its death is an evil death, and Hades is preferable to it. An evil tongue will not prevail over the godly, and they will not be burned in its flame. Those who forsake the Lord will fall into it, and among them it will be kindled, and it will not be quenched. It will set upon them like a lion, and like a leopard it will mangle them. See that you fence in your possessions with thorns, lock up your silver and gold. Make balances and scales for your words, and bar and bolt the door of your mouth. Beware, lest you make a slip with your tongue, lest you fall victim before him who lies in wait. Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 29. He who shows mercy will lend to his neighbor, and he who makes him strong with a helping hand keeps the commandments. Lend to your neighbor in the time of his need, and when you borrow, repay your neighbor on time. Keep your word and be trustworthy with him, and on every occasion you will find what you need. Many men, supposing a loan is like a windfall, cause trouble to those who help them. He will kiss the lender's hand until he receives the loan, and to get his neighbor's money he will lower his voice, but at the time of repayment he will put it off, and repay only with words of indifference, and blame the times. If the lender is firm with him, he will barely get back half the loan, and will consider it as a windfall. If the borrower does not repay anything, he has robbed him of his money, and needlessly made him an enemy. The lender will then repay him with curses and insults, and dishonor instead of glory. Many men, not because they are evil, have refused to lend. They have become afraid of being needlessly robbed. However, be patient with the man of humble circumstances, and do not keep him waiting for your alms. Because of the commandment, help a poor man, and in his need do not turn him away empty. Lose your money for the sake of a brother and friend. Do not let it rust under a stone and be lost. Lay up your treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, for this will profit you more than gold. Store alms in your storerooms, and they will deliver you from all affliction. More than a mighty shield and better than a strong spear, almsgiving will fight for you against your enemy. A good man will go surety for his neighbor, But a man who has lost his sense of shame will forsake him. Do not forget the kindness his surety has done for you, for he has given his life for you. A sinner will overthrow the good things of his surety, and the ungrateful man will forsake his deliverer on purpose. Suretyship has destroyed many prosperous men and tossed them about like waves of the sea. Suretyship has driven influential men from their homes, and they have wandered among foreign nations. The sinner who chances upon suretyship and the man who pursues profit-taking will fall into judgment. Help your neighbor according to your ability, but watch out for yourselves, lest you fall. The principle of life is water, bread, and clothing, and a house that offers privacy. The life of a poor man under a shelter of logs is better than great food in another man's house. Be content with little or much, and you will not hear your guests insulted. Going from house to house is a bad way to live, and where you are visiting, you dare not open your mouth. You will entertain guests and give drink to the ungrateful, and besides this you will hear bitter words. Come here, stranger, set the table, and if you have any food at hand, feed me. Get out, stranger, somebody more important is here. My brother has come as my guest. I need my house. These things are hard for a sensible man to take, the rebuke of a household and the abuse of a creditor. Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 30. The man who loves his son will chastise him often, so he may rejoice in him in his later years. He who disciplines his son will profit by him, and boast of him among acquaintances. The man who teaches his son will make his enemy jealous, and will rejoice exceedingly over him among friends. When his father dies, it is as though he is not dead, for he left behind one like himself. While he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him, and when he died, he was not grieved. Before his enemies, he left behind an avenger, and to his friends, one who repays favors. He who spoils his son will bandage his wounds, and at every cry his heart will ache. A horse not broken turns out to be stubborn, and a son allowed to run wild turns out to be headstrong. Pamper a child, and he will frighten you. Play with him, and he will grieve you. Do not laugh with him, lest you suffer with him, and gnash your teeth over him at last. Do not give him authority while he is young. Bruise his ribs when he is young, lest he become stubborn and disobey you. Discipline your son and work with him, so he will not embarrass you with his behavior. A poor man with good health is better off than a rich man afflicted in his body. Health and vigor are better than all gold, and a strong body than immense wealth. There are no riches greater than health of body, and there is no gladness above joy of heart. Death is better than a wretched life, and eternal rest is better than chronic sickness. Good things set out before a closed mouth are like offerings of food put on a grave. What use is an offering of fruit to an idol? For it can neither eat nor smell. So is a man afflicted by the Lord. He sees with his eyes and groans, like a eunuch embracing a virgin. Do not give yourself over to sorrow, and do not distress yourself deliberately. Gladness of the heart is the life of a man, and rejoicing by a man lengthens his life. Love your soul and comfort your heart, and put sorrow far away from you, for sorrow has destroyed many, and there is no profit in it. Envy and anger will shorten your days, and worry will bring premature old age. A man with a good and cheerful heart will pay attention to the food he eats. Wisdom of SIRACH, chapter 31. Losing sleep over wealth wastes away the body, and anxiety about wealth removes sleep. Sleepless anxiety will drive away slumber, and severe illness makes an end to sleep. A rich man labors to gather money, and when he rests, he fills himself with his luxuries. A poor man labors to make a meager living, and when he rests, he becomes needy. He who loves gold will not be called righteous, and he who pursues profit will be led astray by it. Many are driven to calamity for the sake of gold, and their destruction has met them face to face. It is a stumbling block for those who possess by it, and every senseless man will be trapped by it. Blessed is a rich man who is found blameless, and does not chase after gold. Who is he? And we shall call him blessed, for he has worked wonders among his people. Who has been tested by it and found perfect? He has ground for boasting. Who is able to transgress, but did not transgress? Who is able to commit evil, but did not do it? His good things will be strengthened, and the assembly will talk of his almsgiving. Are you seated at table with a great man? Do not gluttonize, and do not say, "How much food there is upon your table?" Remember that a greedy eye is a vice, and what has been created worse than the eye. Therefore it sheds tears on every face. Do not stretch out your hand for everything you see, and do not crowd another at the dish. Understand the things of your neighbor by your own, and in every matter be considerate. Eat what is set before you, like a human being, and do not devour your food, lest you be despised. Be the first to stop eating for the sake of discipline, and do not be greedy so as not to cause offense. And if you are seated in a large group of people, do not reach out your hand before they do. How small an amount is sufficient for a man with discipline, and he does not gasp for breath on his bed. Healthy sleep depends on moderate eating, and he rises early and in good spirits, but the distress of sleeplessness, nausea, and indigestion are with the glutton. If you are stuffed with food, get up in the middle of the meal and stop eating. Listen to me, my child, and do not disregard me, and you will find my words to be important. In all your works be prepared, and no sickness will overtake you. Lips will bless a man generous with his food, and their witness to his goodness is trustworthy. A city will grumble against the man stingy with his food, and their witness to his stinginess is accurate. Do not get your courage from wine, for wine has destroyed many men. As a furnace tests steel in the tempering process, so wine tests hearts in the quarrels of the arrogant. Wine is like life to men, if you drink it in moderation. What is life without wine? For it was created to give gladness to men. Wine drunk at the proper time and with temperance is joyfulness of heart and gladness of soul. Drinking too much wine is bitterness of soul, with irritation and occasion for stumbling and falling. Drunkenness increases the anger of a senseless man to his own hurt, reducing his strength and adding to his wounds. Do not rebuke your neighbor at a wine party, and do not despise him when he is enjoying himself. Do not speak a word of insult against him, and do not afflict him by making demands of him.